Before things get really hairy midweek in Ottawa, we get a chance right now to sit down with Hamilton Mountain MP Chris Charlton. Chris, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition. So you used to do opinionating on this TV station all the time, and it was never special. Now you're a special edition. How does that feel?
Thanks, Jason. You're making me feel right at home here.
The Olympics, let's start with this. It's over, and we do have word from Ottawa, I guess, that the investment with this Own the Podium program isn't going to be like it was anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, the federal government has said it's not going to recommit to the levels that it's funded the program before. And you know what? Canadians are so proud of the efforts by Canada's amateur athletes. They had an amazing performance at these Olympics. We've taken on a record number of golds. And yet at this very time, when people are getting excited about enrolling their children in sports programs, at the very time that we're talking about needing to fight childhood obesity, the government is cutting the very programs that give kids a goal of excellence in sport.
Yeah, and the kids got to be at this point, especially what with the games through, really looking forward to getting involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't send a very good message. You know, it's funny though, Chris, you think about it, before the Own the Podium program, all we did was talk about how we don't invest enough in our athletes. Then we finally do, and what is it? Didn't last very long, did it?
No, unfortunately it didn't. And you know what? I was somebody who took issue with the notion of Own the Podium. While I absolutely support the search for excellence, the reality is a whole lot of people are participating in sports. They're doing their very best, whether they win gold or not. These are incredible athletes that deserve our support. And if we want to nurture that notion of sportsmanship and athleticism, then we need to support them by making the programs affordable and accessible for our athletes. And by cutting the Own the Podium support, I think the federal government is doing a huge disservice to younger Canadians.
Okay, let's take a break from the money aspect of the games and conclude with this. Did it effectively in Vancouver bring us together as a nation?
Oh, I think when you look at the fan support that the Olympics enjoyed right across the country, I think they absolutely did. There was a tremendous pride in our amateur athletes. You know, the final story on these Olympics is going to be written later, and I'm sure there'll be many who will take a close look at the books and the financial aspects of the Olympics. But as Canadians, you know, if you were anywhere in our city last week and watched the enthusiasm, not just for the hockey games, which I guess you generally expect, but the new sports in the Olympics, Canadians were right behind our athletes, cheering them on every step of the way. And many of them were great moments of national pride that were unifying.
All right, MP Chris, you were right behind the winners at the recent Hamilton Mountain John C. Holland Awards. How'd it go?
They were fantastic. I've been at many of the John C. Holland Awards dinners. I think this was the biggest one that we've ever had. The room was packed. The mood was fantastic. And I just want to say kudos to the organizers. They put on an amazing event. And it's always one of my favorite parts of Black History Month in our city.
A lot of talent in the house annually. Absolutely. With that one. All right. CISO's new Dawn Reception Center. While you've been home on this little prorogation, and I won't call it a vacation because you have been busy. That was probably one of the highlights. How inspired were you to see that community come together? And did we ever find out who wrote this letter?
No, you know what? To the best of my knowledge, I don't know who wrote the letter. But as I said at the event itself, you know, one person with access to a photocopier is no match for our community, for the compassion, for the goodwill that exists in Hamilton. And that event at the New Dawn Reception Center it was a real community event. It was a coming together of people who said, you know what, that kind of racism, that kind of hatred has no place in our Hamilton, and we'll stand together to make sure that our community is strengthened, not weakened by one individual with access to a fax machine.
Yeah, just remind everybody what that story was about.
Somebody who flyered the community in opposition to the New Dawn Reception Center being established on the mountain, took issues and unfair jabs at who the residents may be at that New Dawn Reception House, and was essentially trying to make a case suggesting that you know, property values will go down as a result of this. Was trying to stir the pot, and the community rose as one, showed solidarity, and said, no, in our Hamilton there is a place for New Dawn Reception Center, and we're thrilled that it's in our neighborhood.
Okay, just as Dalton starts rolling one in, yours is over. The prorogue soon to be finished. What's the window of not doing what you normally would be doing been like, and are you looking forward to getting back at it?
I can't wait to be back in Ottawa. As you know, on Wednesday we start with the throne speech. On Thursday we go right into the federal budget. The government prorogued the House in large part because it didn't want to deal with the issue of Afghan detainees. That accountability will, of course, be front and center again when the House
so you
comes
didn't
back.
forget.
Oh, no, we didn't forget. And you know what? More importantly, I mean, the government gave as an excuse for the prorogation that it needed time to consult with Canadians. Well, anybody who has been following what's been happening in our economy didn't need further consultation. We know that we need to have an aggressive economic agenda. We need to be dealing with jobs. We need to be dealing with EI. We need to be dealing with pensions. Those are the real issues that are confronting people in our community every single day. We shouldn't have prorogued for 3 months. We should have been dealing with those issues in Ottawa since January when the House was scheduled to come back. And I can't wait to get back into the House to hold the government to account for making people wait 2 additional months before they could get help from their federal government.
Can you try to get inside the Conservatives' head? Can you try to share with us what you may hear in the next couple of days from them?
Well, you know, unfortunately, Jim Flaherty's been pretty blunt about what his agenda is going to be. He said as far back as December that as a result of the deficit that's resulted in terms of the economic stimulus package and some of the money they've had to spend on infrastructure, he's now saying his agenda will include privatization and it will include program cuts. We've seen that movie before here in Ontario. I mean, many will remember when Jim Flaherty was the finance minister under Mike Harris. That is the government that gave us Walkerton. We don't want to see a replay of that here on a national level, and I think it's absolutely incumbent upon all of the opposition parties to say we don't want a repeat of what we saw in Ontario under Mike Harris. We need to make sure that people end up being better off. We still haven't recovered from the Harris cuts in Ontario to this day.
When you say privatize and cut, privatize what, cut what? That's what I mean. Are you thinking ahead? Are you prepared to hear what it is that they want to privatize, or do you know?
Well, I think, you know, to a large extent, they've signaled what their agenda is going to be. If you look at some of the programs like our nuclear assets, they're talking about selling those. With respect to deregulation, you've seen that start to play out already, whether it's with respect to environmental issues or whether it's with respect to healthcare. I think there's a whole range of issues that we need to be very, very vigilant about, because the reality is not everything that they intend to do has to come before the House of Commons. Much they can do by regulation, and the devil, as always with this government, is in the details.
Okay, you want to talk about retirement plans and what the Ontario government intends to do in comparison to your federal government?
Well, I know you've had Andrea on the show, and she's talked eloquently about the need for provincial pension reform. That same issue, of course, is front and center at the federal government. With so many pension plans now being underfunded, with companies on the brink of bankruptcy, Canadians are profoundly worried about the future of their retirement income security. And of course, that income security depends on a number of things. First and foremost, the universal system is the OAS and the GIS. And as you know, we've been advocates of increasing the GIS because seniors are finding it almost impossible to make ends meet right now. Everything is going up except for their income, and it's only going to get worse when the HST is added on to things like heat, like hydro, like electricity come July. There's also the CPP, of course, which is no longer adequate. So we have a proposal that we have been working on in Ottawa that is now a public proposal that allows for potentially the doubling of benefits of CPP benefits that are being paid to Canadians. And the final piece, of course, is company pension plans, making sure that when companies do go bankrupt, that the innocent victims of those bankruptcies, who are the workers who for years have contributed to pension plans, don't lose their pension benefits as a result of that.
This is pretty serious stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, when people go to work, they do that in good faith. They negotiate wages, they negotiate benefits, they negotiate pensions. And what we've seen, you know, you'll recall it happened at CH. It's certainly, you remember the CCAA protection at Stelco. At the stroke of a pen, the reality will change for people in their retirement planning. These are bread and butter issues, and people are losing their homes. They're worried about their futures. They haven't done anything wrong, and we need to protect them.
Other items on your wish list, we'll get to that in just a bit. We'll take a quick break right now, okay, MP Chris?
Absolutely.
MP Chris Charlton, our special guest on this Monday edition of For the Record. More with her in just a moment. Stay tuned.